That is the hardest part of that ring.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode number 48 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the podcast where four friends get together to discuss the wonder of professional wrestling. I'm Adam, and I'm joined today by Sam.
Hello.
And by John.
Hello.
And by Brett.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. First off, a bit of an apology. We were supposed to do this podcast last week, but as you may have seen on our Twitter, we were all given wellness violations due to a cold virus raging through the majority of the roster.
And then John.
Yeah, John.
Had to step things up.
Do you want to explain, John?
So on Sunday I broke my elbow.
Oh, doing the people's elbow?
Yeah, I wish it was that cool. I was out running and then tripped over my own laces and fell through a wall.
That's how the people's elbow was invented.
I mean, falling through a wall is quite cool.
Yeah, I didn't feel that cool at the time when I was bloody.
When you told us that, I did have visions of the Shockmaster.
It was a lot like that.
You just flying it, like interrupting somebody's, like watching TV or something. You come flying through into their living room.
Were you wearing a glittery Stormtrooper helmet at the time?
I mean, yeah, I do, just because of my breathing's quite bad, so it helps with that.
I think you could pull that look off, to be fair.
Yeah,
you're very fashionable.
Yeah. I'm going to be like Bob Orton now and just have a cast on my arm for the rest of my life, actually.
Can't you just wear a neck brace? You're a big fan of the neck braces, isn't it? It won't help your elbow. But.
I'd be so happy if I got to wear a neck brace.
Yeah, the rest of us have just had these colds that have just been going on forever.
Lingering.
Yeah.
I thought you said fingering then.
No, lingering.
I thought you said fingering.
Lingering like a Brock Lesnar title reign.
I thought you were getting into the subject of this this podcast by just shouting fingering for no reason.
Obscenities.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been 48 episodes this time.
I think Brett's on our WhatsApp last week when we had to cancel it suggested that, what did you say, Brett? Maybe Vince has got wind of the fact that we're going to do a protest podcast and he's sent some dodgy Russians for us.
Well remembered.
Giving us all this virus.
I totally forgot.
I write these things down for the good of the pod. Yeah, so this podcast, episode number 48, is going to be a top 5, and it's going to be our top 5 bad taste moments in WWE. And it's basically a response to the shit show that was Crown Jewel.
Which I still haven't watched.
Nope.
No.
Shall I pretend I haven't watched it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, yeah. I stuck to my values and I have not watched any of it. Definitely not. But yeah, you know, we didn't review it and we're not going to talk about it. But what we are going to do is talk about the long line of missteps in WWE's fine history. And we're going to work out what our top 5 moments are. Our last podcast was the WWE Evolution review, so go back and check that out if you haven't. Anything else? Just quickly, should we touch upon Riptide?
Yeah, it feels like a while ago now, but
yeah, we had the Blackwater show a couple of weeks ago now. What do you think, Sam?
What a welcome return for Riptide. It was such a good show, really enjoyable. I think Mike Bailey is the best kept secret in wrestling.
Yeah, he's bloody good. He was on the most recent Progress show, which I'm looking forward to watching.
Same.
Should be pretty good. He had a match against Cara Noir, and I think we all agreed that was our match of the night. And we won't do a full review, but as Sam said, a great sort of return to form, and to look forward to seeing future shows from them. Should we do this top 5?
Let's pod.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
Take another look at this X-Plex. Look how Birch lands on the apron.
Look at the landing, spine first, the hardest part of the ring.
Top 5 bad taste moments in WWE. So this is basically a celebration of all the times WWE have done something that most normal people would consider to be in bad taste. And I think doing our research for this, we probably could have done a top 100.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Just on Vince alone.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, I mean, we could exclusively have done a top 5 of Vince. I know, just to give them a quick shout out, Got Till 5 did the podcast Got Till 5 did a top 5 of Vince moments, which is really, really funny. That was a few months ago. But I'm sure we'll have a couple of Vince moments in here as well. We've changed the format slightly from previous top 5 episodes. So this time we're each going to bring 2 picks to the table. We're then going to choose one of those picks to lock down each before debating the final entry into the top 5. And we're also going to hear picks from our listeners as well. So they'll be considered and will potentially make it into the top 5. So yeah, should we just get into it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about horrible stuff. Sam?
All right.
You seem like the perfect person to kick us off.
I am a big connoisseur of horrible stuff. Let me take you boys back to September 16th, 2004. Post-Attitude Era. And little-known wrestler John Heidenreich. John Heidenreich kidnapped Michael Cole and then simulated a sexual assault on him, which turned out to be a joke to tell a poem.
Oh,
That
standard.
explains so much about Michael Cole.
I bet you're wondering why I got you back here, Michael. Well, I've been watching you, and I've been studying you, Michael. And I know me and you, we want the same things. We have the same desires. Well, now that I've got you back here, all alone with me, I'm gonna give you what you want.
So, John Heidenreich, he sneaks up behind Michael Cole, pops him over the shoulder. Taz is just like, "Oh, what's going on? I don't really want to save you. Bye."
I mean, to be fair with Taz, he probably couldn't see because he had a towel on his head.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Well made. And to be fair, like at that point in time, you know, he was at the Kurt Angle stage of like having to turn his whole body to look left and right. So that probably wasn't going to happen. Yeah, and then we cut to a shot backstage of Heidenreich thrusting.
Oh,
Yeah, it's incredibly.
it's never a good verb,
It's
is it?
incredibly graphic, to be fair. Breathing heavily into Michael Cole's ear, and he does this for about 30 or 40 seconds before talking into his ear in a threatening, negging, odd, just the kind of way that makes you feel uncomfortable now.
I mean, I've just seen a photo of him, and yeah, I mean, terrifying.
Yeah. He locks the door, reads Michael Cole a poem, and then Michael Cole runs away. So the idea behind this was a McMahon idea. It doesn't actually say which one.
Really?
I think we can guess. But Stephanie was the one who told him he would be doing the bit. The idea was to emulate a scene from Pulp Fiction in 2004. I guess as a 10-year anniversary thing.
Still relevant. Relevant culture.
An incredibly strange decision. The last thing with Heidenreich is that this, amazingly enough, is probably one of the less offensive things. The other being a story that Vince McMahon literally nixed because it was too offensive, which was Heidenreich was going to be a cryogenically frozen Nazi. Which they then chucked out because they were like, oh, there's even lines we won't cross yet.
Wow, that's the line. That's the WWE line.
So,
Well, yeah, won't be for long with their love of Trump.
yes.
What I love is, before this podcast, I'd never even heard of John Heidenreich, but yet he's made it into
Yes,
two of our top
so
five.
He
knows.
is a fantastic treasure.
Yeah.
The gift that keeps on giving, I guess. Wording.
Yeah, I wonder
I
what
can't
he's
wait
up
for him
to.
to make it a surprise experience that this year's Rumble, or next year's Rumble.
I think he could be a Hall of Fame entrant, to be fair.
I'm sure everyone we mention on this podcast will eventually be in the Hall of Fame, except for China,
Oh, God bless her.
who may or may not get a mention. Okay, good start, Sam. John, do you want to go next?
Yes. So my choice is Akeem the African Dream. God, it's an American dream though. So in an episode of Superstars from 1988, they showed a vignette with Mean Gene in full dinner suit, as he likes to keep it formal. And he says he's in deepest, darkest Africa. But it's quite clearly like Detroit from the RoboCop movies. Everything's on fire. Then Doctor of Style, Slick He runs in with his beatbox on his shoulder. Slick being quite a questionable character in his own right, but Slick says he's going to show like a startling transformation of some big new talent. Then loads of tribal dancers come out and they perform like a voodoo ritual around a trash fire. And through all the smoke, a 6'9" man appears, 450 pounds, but it's a white dude, and he declares himself to be Akeem the African Dream.
Oh my god!
Right.
Yeah. He then proceeds to deliver an awful program in what can probably best be described as extremely stereotypical jive accent.
Oh.
From now on, I will be known as Akeem. I'm reborn tonight, the greatest night in history.
Ugh, it's awful. It turns out it was a one-man gang
Right.
who'd been repackaged as the laziest racist gimmick of all time.
Oh my days.
That is bad.
So he was meant to be a parody of Dusty Rhodes.
Yes, it was kind of a dig at Dusty.
Why would you take a dig at Dusty?
Because he was the chief booker at WCW at this time, 1988.
He's just
Right.
a normal man.
And there's one
Yeah.
thing I've learned is Vince likes taking pot shots at people through characters and wrestling storylines.
Especially Dusty. Like Virgil was a pop shop at Dusty as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Apparently, like Triple H's original gimmick was taking a shot at, I think, some of Vince's neighbours who are all a bit hoi polloi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
Well, IRS was because Vince was getting investigated by the taxman, wasn't
Oh
it?
my days.
It'll make
Has
sense.
Vince,
What I love about Akeem though is, I mean, God bless WWE. They really doubled down and just threw every racist stereotype they could at it, like voodoo, pimps, Africa's a burnout wasteland,
Hey.
jive talking.
Hey,
and at the end,
there's nothing bad taste about voodoo. Leave the puppet show go out of this. Sorry, John, go on.
that's okay. Do you want one last fun fact?
Yeah.
yes.
So, One Man Gang's last match was in 2008, and he lost to Jim Duggan. 2008. Oh, that must have been a killer.
2008.
Blimey.
Shitting hell, yeah. I'm looking on Google image search, and it seems that there is a action figure of African Dream. I don't know if that's one that a fan has made or if it was actually available, but I might have to buy it for you for Christmas.
Oh, it's worth quite a bit of money, isn't it? Worth quite a lot. He was only in
looks
WWE or
fan-made.
WF for like 2 years. Teamed up with the Boss Man for a bit, and I think they were called like the Twin Towers.
Oh,
Yeah. I think that shows up on Google Images as well. Okay, Akeem the African Dream. Brett, what's your first pick?
I'm going to have to stick to bullet points on this one for like highlights because it was a story that played out across a number of episodes of Raw back in 2002, that vintage year of wrestling. So this is obviously the Katie Vick storyline.
Oh,
Yes.
I have never seen something so random, so like pointless and so offensive. So like it kicks off with essentially Triple H rocking up and telling a story announcing that Kane had killed Katie Vick.
Bad enough in itself.
Yeah. And that's just the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then
murder.
So then it goes on to say that he killed her through drink driving. So
Okay.
the story is he
Distasteful.
got drunk, drove her home, crashed, she died instantly, he suffered minor injuries.
Okay. Terrible.
So that's bad enough. Then we go on to a further episode of Raw where, Triple H comes out to say a bit more about this storyline because he's obviously got major beef with Kane.
Yep.
So he then accuses Kane of necrophilia.
Okay, yeah.
Not only accuses him, he's got a tape to prove it.
I remember this.
Yes. So there he is with Ric Flair next to him and he's holding up this VHS cassette.
Nice.
And essentially in that episode they show the tape and it's Triple H dressed as Kane in a funeral parlour. Okay. He walks up to a coffin. There's a mannequin dressed as a cheerleader in the coffin, which is obviously Katie Vick. He says weird stuff, and then he proceeds to take his clothes off. I think he's got a jockstrap on, but you don't really
Just
you don't
swinging
see
loose.
much. And he climbs in the coffin and proceeds to screw her brains out. So much so that when he finishes, he reaches to her head and pulls out loads of pink mush.
And more importantly, Kane, why don't you explain to the world how when doctors did the autopsy on Katie Vick's body, the doctors found your semen?
Oh.
Do you know what the worst part was that after Stephanie found out about this, you never heard from Katie Vick again. Just another woman buried by Stephanie's jealousy.
And I mean, this storyline continues, which the next bit of it was actually quite funny. It was Kane's
To be fair,
retaliation,
the whole thing is kind of funny.
which was Triple H receiving an enema in a hospital. And
I don't remember this
there was
bit.
like they had someone with different photographic masks on Triple H's face, and they were pulling out all manner of objects out of like his ass. It was quite even his
hurt my elbow.
even his own head at one point
Stop
came out
laughing,
of his
John.
ass.
Oh my god!
And then,
See, this
yeah.
is the thing. This is all so bad that we can only laugh about it. Really,
It's the thing is like, where did they come up with this idea? You know,
maybe it's something Kane was into.
Do you know what? The thing is that like these early 2000 stories, kind of coming off the back of the Attitude Era, it was trying to capture the old magic of like extreme storytelling and just missing the mark time and time again.
totally bonkers. There was more awkward moments with Triple H carrying the mannequin cheerleader into the ring and putting it on his knee and then flirting with it while talking to himself, but talking to Katie Vick.
But that's okay because Triple H and Kane never wrestled again.
Yeah. And there was like, Jerry, the King Lawler throughout these episodes was saying like, obscene things about the storyline on commentary, so you never got away from it. And then
That doesn't sound like him.
yeah, and then it just ends because they have nowhere they're going with it, except that Shawn Michaels is gonna run in on Kane and Triple H's big match and interfere. Like there was nowhere they were going.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm done. There was quite a lot there. I'm sorry.
Oh God, don't be sorry. I mean,
It's a classic low point.
This is an absolute classic storyline, isn't it? Because this is definitely one that comes up so much when I was looking into stuff online. Like everybody who talks about anything remotely bad taste in WWE mentions Katie Vick, and watching some of the YouTube clips. I'd love to just sit with Triple H now and just watch it and just get his reaction.
Just do like a kind of an analysis kind of.
Yeah. So Hunter, talk me through this.
Yeah. When did this seem like a good idea?
Well, I've always been a method actor.
Yeah, I went back and watched through all those episodes of Raw. And I have to say,
Good research.
it wasn't even just that storyline that could have come up on this, because everything in those episodes was offensive.
Yeah, that sounds about
it was
right.
a
I mean,
rough
even
time.
the opening was Papa Roach, wasn't it?
Hey,
Oh, we're not allowed to. Okay,
one of the first gigs I ever went to was Papa Roach
Hey.
at Brixton Academy.
I'm sorry, I thought this was the Bad Taste podcast. I thought it was okay to talk about Papa Roach and basically any of my music taste, Adam.
Yeah, okay, so that is fair enough. Sorry. Okay, good pick, Brett. Really strong first pick. I'm up next, and I am going to go back to 1997, October 1997, and specifically 24 hours after the very sad death of Brian Pillman from a heart attack.
Oh, God.
Right.
When
Yeah.
Vince McMahon decided it would be an amazing idea to get Brian's wife, Melanie, onto Raw for an interview live, which of course is absolutely ridiculous and atrocious, and is hopefully something you'd never see these days. Obviously, just such bad taste just to have the interview even happen, and it wasn't. I mean, even if it was like a kayfabe thing, you'd think, "Oh, this is a bit weird," like having the wife interview angle. But he actually died 24 hours before this interview.
Yeah.
And it starts off with a little bit of sympathy, just to give Vince some credit, asking what happened, how she's feeling and all that kind of thing. And
he deserves no credit here.
No
credit whatsoever.
Then he asks how the children are getting on, because they had 5 children.
5?
Well, I mean, I don't think all of them were from that one relationship. No. I think Melanie talks about how, and this feels a bit much to be talking about.
Yeah, terrible.
But I'm going to do it anyway because it's in the spirit of the episode. She talks about how their daughter had actually lost her biological mother 2 years before this, and how when Melanie told her what happened, she just screamed and screamed and screamed. And so I was watching this interview, sort of smiling, thinking, this is going to be great. Yeah, talk about this on the pod, can't believe it. And then she said that. I was like, oh, God.
This is actually a fun pod.
Death.
Oh.
Anyway, stick with us, guys. Stick with us. Then Vince asks probably one of the most controversial questions I was going to say he's ever asked, but maybe not. He said, have you had any opportunity, or something along these lines, have you had any opportunity to think about what you're going to do as a single parent having to support 5 children?
Oh, yeah.
And she's just like, well, to be honest, no, I haven't had time to think about anything. It's just deplorable. But nobody with any kind of conscience would suggest this is a good idea.
Have you had any opportunity to think about what you now as a single parent will do to support your 5 children?
Vince, I don't even really know what day it is, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
It gets worse, though, if I remember, because I've watched it.
Does he French her in the middle of the ring or something?
How does it get worse? What do you mean, the interview?
Yeah. Well, because he from my recollection, he essentially is trying to negate any responsibility for WWE for his death.
Of course,
ask where he asked about, like
the whole, to me that seemed like the whole reason for the interview was to give WWE the clean slate, even though, Vince himself had admitted to supplying wrestlers with.
Yeah. No, that's true. That is a good point. Yeah, he did sort of insinuate that could be the reason, and sort of was trying to get Melanie to say to people, you've got to be careful because this could happen to you. It could happen to anyone. Definitely not just people who I employ. So, yeah, it was horrid. Yeah. Really horrid.
Oh, it leaves a nasty taste in the mouth, that one.
Yeah,
it really
doesn't leave it. Yeah, like the post story is not nice as well. Like, she continued to receive royalties from WWE, which I think she then kind of spent on herself, and she doesn't have a good relationship with it. It's a horrible story.
Yeah. Nice. Sam, pick us up. Cheer us up with your second pick.
Pick us up.
Yeah.
All right, let's stick in the Attitude Era.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the time when Big Show's kayfabe father died from cancer, and then the Big Boss Man continued to torment and abuse him about this, to the point where he rocked up at the Big Show's father's funeral, stole the coffin, and kind of just drove off with it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't remember that.
Yeah. Tell us more.
Okay, so the Big Boss Man, he's a classic WWF wrestler, and then kind of he went away and then came back in what we would come to know nowadays as Shield riot gear.
Yes.
Back then it was just cop, I guess. And the Big Boss Man was an insane heel in the Attitude Era. So some of the things he did included feeding Al Snow his own dog.
Oh, I remember that.
Being hung in the ring.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But, he basically tormented the Big Show for a few weeks about his dad dying from cancer. Shows up at the funeral. The Big Show is eulogizing his dad at the time. Leather coat, leather trousers.
So respectful.
If you're going to a funeral. He runs the Big Show over, gets out of his car and attaches a chain to the coffin, drives off. Big Show pelts after it, jumps onto the coffin and starts surfing it for a while, falls off, and I don't even know where that goes. Just the Big Boss Man somewhere in his house still has the Big Show's dad's corpse. And then As if this isn't like the end of the story. You cut to the Big Show versus Viscera, and all of a sudden on the Titantron, you see a camera through the window of the Big Show's house, his mum's house, where the Big Boss Man is talking to a sobbing Mrs. Big Show, Big Show's mama, apparently. She is crying, and Boss Man is saying, if you don't tell them, I will. And she's like, oh, no, let me tell them. She goes, what are you going to tell them? And she goes, the Big Show is illegitimate. He's a bastard.
Exactly what do you want to tell him?
I want to tell him he wasn't supposed to know, but let me tell him.
What?
That he's illegitimate.
He's illegitimate.
He's illegitimate.
So what you're saying is your son's a bastard.
Yes.
And then Boss Man laughs and he goes, look out of that window. You see that red light? That's a camera. You just told the whole world. She bursts out into sobs. The Big Show is just like, what the fuck? It turns out the Big Show is an illegitimate bastard. Yeah.
I think the worst thing about this is the Big Show must have agreed to it at some point.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the Big Boss Man did this. At some point in this time as well, him and Prince Albert threw smoke grenades into the changing room just to knock out the Big Show. I don't know what was going on, but
how was Viscera involved in this?
Oh, Viscera was just in one of the matches.
It's so great to hear about him again.
Yeah, good old Apocalypse sausages.
He's very much the fabric that holds this podcast together.
Apocalypse sausages back again.
But yeah, no, just the Big Boss Man feud with the Big Show it's a thing of beauty in a strange, bizarre way that involves a lot of leather. Yeah.
I mean, they obviously thought this isn't going to be an entertaining story in the ring with those two. So what can we do outside of the ring to get people hooked?
I mean, I've got to be honest, like, if you look through the Big Boss Man's career, he is a treasure trove of insane storylines.
Yeah.
Like, an underrated lunatic. So, yeah, nice. Big Boss Man stealing Big Show's dad from a funeral. I guess.
Very good. John, what's your next pick?
So my last pick is actually quite a difficult one because it's Roddy Piper goes half blackface at WrestleMania 6.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at WrestleMania 6, Roddy Piper was in a feud with Bad News Brown. Bad News Brown was a former Olympian and African American. Before the match, Rowdy cuts a backstage promo with Mean Gene. At the start of the promo, Roddy's is in profile, so he's like facing the left. And then as he starts the promo, he jumps to the other side to reveal that not only has he painted half his face black, but he's also painted the whole right side of his body black.
Right.
And then during the promo, he referred to Bad News Brown as bug-eyed and wide-nosed.
Oh, dearie me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, they call him the Hot Rod.
Yeah, you could say I'm the Hot Rod. Some folks call me the Hot Scott. You know, I guess I'm a little bit of both. Now that I think of it, you could say I'm a little two-faced. But you know, Bad News Brown, you just got one face. Kind of face that needs a little customizing. For instance, let's take a look at them big bug eyes of yours.
Right. He proceeded to wrestle the entire match in effectively blackface and half black body.
Right.
The match ended in a WDQ with a count out.
Yeah.
I think what makes this one particularly bad is it's not only sort of the racist language and imagery, but it's the fact it's Roddy, like a wrestler we all really admire.
Yeah, and love.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to turn this onto a wrestler none of us admire, X-Pac did a similar thing dressing up as Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't Triple H as well do blackface?
I think it's a time-honoured tradition. It's definitely a tradition.
Yeah.
Not a pleasant one, mind.
Do you think Ronda
Roddy
will go the whole slog in her tribute to Roddy and maybe WrestleMania next year come out?
Oh my god, that would be bold, wouldn't it? Okay.
That would be bold.
I think, maybe an area to get away from. When I saw this when I was younger...
I agree.
When I saw this when I was younger, I did not realise it was blackface. I thought it was like a reference to Braveheart. And obviously I was naive and stupid.
And wrong.
There's a little fun story though, because I can't remember who, but it's quite strong paint that Roddy used. He had a special cleaners to get it off, and someone stole the cleaner, so he was like this for weeks.
I have a mate who once dressed as a Smurf, went to the Rugby Sevens at Twickenham and used blue car spray paint.
Oh, bloody hell.
Insane decision.
no.
Has he
He's
not
trying
seen Goldfinger?
Yeah, I think he did leave a little patch on the base of his back
Okay,
or something.
phew.
So he didn't die, but he could not scrub it off. He was in the shower afterwards trying to scrub it off, and it would not come off. And he's a pilot, so I think he had to call in sick or something. But yeah,
What?
big error.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that is horrendous, John. So let's move on quickly to Brett's second and final pick.
My second and final pick. So, obviously, there was a treasure trove of things to go for, but I had to take any opportunity I could to have a dig at Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And wrestling at the same time. Well, not a dig at wrestling, but, that's Vince's side of wrestling.
Yeah.
So, my next story is Donald versus Rosie O'Donnell. From 2007.
Yeah.
This happened 2007. It feels like it should have happened earlier than that.
Yeah.
So essentially, in real life, Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell have a feud. And that feud started, I think, 10 years before. No. Yeah, I don't know how much longer before this, actually. But she was on The View, that talk show thing in America. And she basically ripped into Donald Trump legitimately for many different reasons. But she was calling out his, how many times he's gone bankrupt, that he inherited all his money, all these facts that we all know and have learned many times over since his presidential campaign. And one thing Donald Trump doesn't like is anyone making him look bad. So
I know this could go badly for you, Brett. Just to warn you before you keep going.
Could go badly.
Well, we might get shut down, and you might have snipers outside your house.
That's true. Oh God!
But keep going. Yeah.
So like we've said already, Vince likes using wrestling to have digs at the people that he doesn't like, and he's besties with his billionaire chum Donald Trump. So he thought, I'm going to put on a parody match between Trump and Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh God! Yeah.
So
bad.
This episode of Raw kicks off with pictures of Trump and Rosie O'Donnell on the screen, with the match that's going to happen. Them versus each other, and Donald Trump's normal picture. Rosie O'Donnell is an unflattering picture. That's something that continues throughout. Vince then announces to camera that there's the brash billionaire versus the left-leaning lesbian.
Oof.
Right.
Introducing at a weight of God only knows how much. Here is the double chin diva from The View. Here in all her lesbianic fury, Rosie O'Donnell.
Lesbianic fury. That's a first for Monday Night Raw, I can virtually assure you.
That was immediately followed by Vince meeting this parody Rosie. So some, obviously, wrestler dressed up to look like Rosie O'Donnell.
A male wrestler, was it?
No, it was a female wrestler, but it was a large wrestler.
Right.
And they started talking about her rider for appearing, on WWE. And the main point of it was that she had to have Fudgy the Whale in her dressing room. Fudgy the Whale is some big ice cream cake, I believe.
Okay.
That's known in America. And so the fat parody Rosie continues to dig into the cake. As Vince says, you are what you eat. This just goes on. So then, right, you have... Now they start playing on the, not only is, Rosie O'Donnell fat, but she's a lesbian. So she's walking along the corridor, eating another ice cream, walks past the Divas locker room and has this, creepy, stalkery look on her face. And then she goes into the locker room to, prey on the Divas. And then there goes on to be a scene where she's showing photos to two Divas, but actually she's ogling the Divas throughout. All this happens, and do they Do they do any jokes on Trump? Nope. They just take the mickey out of his hair, saying that he uses loads of hairspray.
Wow, surprised that he allowed that.
I'm watching the match at the moment on YouTube, and the very end of it has a shot of Vince McMahon sitting next to Lillian Garcia, and he just looks so proud of himself.
Yeah, totally.
It's incredible. It's like a proper yep, I think I showed Rosie. And it's like, what the fuck have you done?
Yeah, and then the match happens, which basically has sort of like Rosie being the bigger person, sort of beating Donald around a bit. Then Donald Trump gets what's left of Fudgy the Cake, shoves it in her face, and then does a hairbutt from the top turnbuckle and wins. And then like Rosie's left crying, covered in cake, hair everywhere, and just looking awful.
Ugh. What year was this?
2007.
2007. Fast forward 10 years later.
Yeah.
So mental to think, isn't it?
It is.
And Vince, we know the McMahon family, they contributed a lot of money to that campaign,
Lots of money.
A lot. We really shouldn't watch WWE, should we?
I was watching this and I was just thinking of all the other times Trump's appeared as well. And I was like, is WWE to blame for the American president right now?
I mean, that's a very big leap and jump, I think.
They're a factor.
They're definitely a factor to his popularity.
Yeah.
I don't know, not a big factor. It's really like
a huge factor. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, surely Ted DiBiase would be president if that was the case.
Oh my God.
Now that's a president I can get behind.
Would that be better? Who knows? Okay. Nice one, Brett. Last one, it goes to me, my final pick, my second pick, and guess what? It's more Vince. It's a weird one because the sort of thing itself isn't necessarily that bad taste. I mean, it is a bit, but not necessarily compared to some of the things we discussed. But kind of what happened and the timing of it means that it very much is. So I'm going to talk about June 2007, and it's Vince faking his own death.
Oh, this was bad timing, this one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was weird.
So I'm sure we might not go too much into why it was bad timing, but after he lost the ECW title in June 2007, classic Vince, decided to put on a appreciation night for himself on Raw. And actually, they had loads of guests on that, including Donald Trump and Snoop Dogg and various other people. And all sorts of other stuff happens, and then at the end of the episode, Vince walks out of the arena past the whole roster, and it's great watching this, seeing like some of the old wrestlers there. Mickey James, Mickey James there. Thought of you, John. Yeah. And loads of others. And actually, I read the funny thing about this is that they're all looking kind of straight faced, except for Paul London, who I didn't really know, but he is grinning from ear to ear. And apparently that did not go down very well with Vince, because he immediately got fired for that the next day. But Vince walks past the whole roster and gets into his big white limo, which then proceeds to explode. And it's quite well done in a weird way. Like he gets into the door, and then there's basically a massive fireball, and the whole thing explodes straight away.
Do you know what's really cool about this is that if you look really closely, you can see Nikki Cross standing on top of one of the trucks laughing.
He's coming. That was an awful impression.
That was creepy as fuck.
Yeah. So, I mean, they played it like he'd actually died. And there were various wrestlers paying tribute to him and things like that. And I think the idea was for it to set up this whole whodunit storyline, and then for Vince to come back and reveal that he'd faked it and stuff like that. But then the whole Chris Benoit thing happened.
Yeah.
Yep, that happened.
So an actual death, numerous actual deaths, in fact. And WWF had no choice but to immediately ditch the storyline and have Vince come back. And obviously they had that weird empty arena Benoit tribute show where Vince was the only person there in the ring and in the whole stadium, and he started doing his talk, and they did a big tribute, and as the show went on, more and more details were coming out about what had actually happened, which we won't talk about. But yeah.
Good evening. Tonight, this arena here in Corpus Christi, Texas, was to have been filled to capacity with enthusiastic WWE fans. Tonight's storyline was to have been the alleged demise of my character, Mr. McMahon. However, in reality, WWE superstar Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel are dead.
Awful timing. Really, really bad timing.
Yeah, I think this is a strange one because, like, if you had to say like bad taste, like I'm not 100% sure. Like I would say, yeah, this was in bad taste as much as it was in almost bizarre taste. Like it just a horrible series of circumstances and coincidences.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, it probably won't get in, but it was sort of like him faking his own death. It's got a bad taste in the whole ego of it all. I mean, we know that's what he's like.
Yes, absolutely. I think kind of that's actually one of the things with Vince McMahon is constantly writing himself into strange corners, like having fake sons or blowing himself up, stuff like that, where it just doesn't. You just look at it and you're like, "What's your end game here, you lunatic?"
Yeah,
and there doesn't really seem to be one.
But this one really went wrong. So that's what I've gone for.
Good choice.
So that's 2 picks each that we've done there. So as I said, as a slight change from a usual format, we're now going to each pick one of our own picks to nail down. So we're guaranteed to have one each in the final 5. So Sam, you've got 2 to pick from. Heidenreich kidnaps Michael Cole and simulates sexual assault.
Yeah, I mean,
or the Big Boss Man steals Big Show's father's coffin. Which one are you going to go for?
That's like a deal or no deal, isn't it? Yeah, it's got to be Heidenreich, hasn't it? Like that's awful.
Really bad.
Like, at least Boss Man is kind of funny.
Okay. John, Akeem the African Dream or Roddy Piper, half blackface?
It's got to be Akeem the African Dream, I think.
Yeah, you don't mind blackface. Akeem the African Dream. Brett, Katie Vick or Donald Trump versus Rosie O'Donnell?
Katie Vick, just because it's the most bonkers storyline I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
in wrestling.
It has to be in there. And then I'm definitely going to go for Vince interviewing Brian Pillman's wife, because as we said, the faking his own death doesn't really fit in a way. So our first 4 picks are guaranteed to make it in. So we are going to debate what the final 5th pick will be. Obviously, we've got those 4, the other 4 that we haven't taken through yet, but we've also got a load of listener suggestions that we're going to consider. So let's hear those from John.
Yes, so we've got Broken But Glorious. They said, surely Snitsky punting Lita's miscarried baby is a winner. That was really nasty.
That was so funny. And that's not entirely true. Like, what happened was Snitsky bumped into Lita, allegedly caused a miscarriage, and then afterwards brought out a baby doll to the ring.
Yep.
Made it obvious a doll and then kicked it into the crowd, which
that's
was really funny.
I was going to do one of the miscarriage storylines in one of my lists, because there's been quite a few miscarriages around the wrestling ring, which is just really awful.
Oh god, yeah.
Here they also say also Dawn Marie fucking Tori's dad to death on their wedding night. I don't remember that. I don't know what that is.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah,
so many good ones.
MJ from Total Cult says, it's not exactly what you mean, but as I've read it, Linda McMahon got into the US Senate with no successful election bids, but lots of donations to Trump's presidential campaign. Now she's in a position of governmental power. Seems bad taste to me in a more general sense. Topical?
Can't argue.
Yes.
Can't argue with that.
But if she ever gets out of line, Kane will set her on fire on Tombstone.
I'd love it if there's just she's in the office and just corporate Kane is just standing in the corner of the room. Just arms folded.
Governor Kane or whatever he is.
Yeah.
Mayor Kane.
Anyway, old Mr. Beardface has also been in touch. Says it thankfully never happened, but I'm not sure anything can top the proposed Vince and Stephanie incest angle.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't done that, but
they're waiting on that one.
It also says Katie Vick, Big Show's dad's funeral, Boss Man hanging from the middle of the ring are all up there as well.
Yeah.
And finally, Loserweight says Roddy Piper WrestleMania 6. Boom.
Boom.
Agrees with you. Very nice.
Anyone want to take into consideration? The Lita miscarried baby one is grim.
That is. I did watch a clip of that.
Yeah, me too.
It's really funny, actually, how far he manages to kick this.
Man, he gets some
baby.
good distance on it, yeah.
Gets some good air on it, doesn't he? Yeah.
I feel like maybe Donald Trump, Rosie O'Donnell, like how vitriol and how horrible that really was. Like, it's just a real personal attack on someone for no reason whatsoever.
It was really petty, which just seems to sum up both Trump and Vince McMahon.
Yeah. And how relevant that still seems to be today, like 10 years later.
Yeah, the feud is still going.
Just kind of gross. And it's the fact that kind of like wrestling is... I'd like to say wrestling is something for everyone. And then you've got this megalomaniac who's kind of tarred every wrestling fan with the brush of this whole thing. It just, that to me seems like a standout.
Yeah, a couple of megalomaniacs. Megalomaniacs. We could have had like a Hulk Hogan, fake Donald Trump crossover tag team called the Hulk Megalomaniacs.
Hey,
definitely keep this hilarious joke in.
I mean, that might be at the next Saudi Arabia show. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God. Exactly. I love the silence and the hey. I've still got a cold. Okay, that's the explanation. What do you think? I mean, I'd probably if Donald Trump's involved, he should probably be in the top 5. I'd happily have that one as the 5th. But
yeah, I'd agree. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds like we've got it nailed down already. Any arguments?
No, it was a very easy list to put together. This one.
Yeah. Okay.
It was.
I mean. Let's confirm the top 5 in a second then. Do you guys have any extra honourable mentions there?
Oh,
yes.
Oh, boy.
Okay, run through some quickly.
Okay. Crime Time. Just Crime Time.
Yeah.
Crime Time is super fucking racist.
Super racist.
Yeah. Cool. Piggy James. Just Vince McMahon. In fact, Vince McMahon with any interaction with any woman on WWE in the last 20 years. Let's just throw that
Trish
in there.
Stratus and barking.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
And... yeah, Natalia Neidhart farting gimmick. Well, that was mean.
I never saw that.
It
sounds interesting.
It sounds quite tame in comparison to some of these others.
Yeah. Tame, but just mean.
I got one. 2005. I think it must have been on their website that they showed these videos. Tim White suicides. Tim White was the referee who was depressed and tried to commit suicide in many, many different ways, which each week they showed him trying to kill himself, whether it was shooting himself with a shotgun, whether it was suffocating himself with a plastic bag. He stood in a bath and chucked a toaster in. It was rat poison. It just went on and on and on.
I mean, that's quite funny as well. That's another one that is quite funny. It's terrible.
It's quite funny, but it's terrible because it's like treating suicide and depression.
Of course.
Such a bad brushstroke. No.
Yeah, also agreed. When they sort of wrote Warrior's alcoholism into storyline, that was awful.
Oh, God, yeah.
When Linda McMahon was in a coma and drugged by Vince, and then Vince would get off with Trish in the centre of a ring in front of her, that was grim.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even mentioned the time Triple H kidnapped Stephanie McMahon, drugged her and married her.
Yeah.
That just happened.
Also,
luckily that worked out, so good for them.
Storyline or not, how is it ever right for a boss of a company to like work a way that he can make out with a young employee?
No,
it's just despicable. And he did that many times with many blonde wrestlers.
Yeah. Any of the midget wrestling that they do, even today, where just doing a parody. And also, a recent one with Jinder Mahal's lovely impressions of Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, God,
I think I've forgotten those. Yeah.
I had Edge and Lita having sex live on Raw, which I watched back and was awkward as hell.
Awkward? Is that the word you're going to go
with? Quite sexy. Arousing.
2007 was a bumpy year for wrestling.
Obviously, Mae Young giving birth to a hand, but we talked about that.
Anything with Mae Young, it lasted like 3 years of her career.
We talked a bit about that on our Mae Young Classic episode of the 2017 Mae Young Classics. You can listen to that. The battle for custody of Dominic, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. That's a bit...
Oh, yeah.
weird.
The trouble is that was bad, but they were good matches. So
you can forgive it.
Yeah.
You can forgive it if it's a good match. And then the final one, which I sort of had as backup in case we had any of the same picks, was the Mohammed Hassan terrorist gimmick, and the fact that they ran that on this. They ran it on SmackDown on the same day as the London bombings in 2005.
Yeah.
So they knew that had happened, and they still kept this segment involving 5 masked men running into the ring and attacking the Undertaker. So
post Attitude Era WWE is the worst. It's just so
just
bad.
all of it up to the present day.
It is just basically clutching. But the thing is that the quality wasn't that great, and it was just like 2000 from about 2003 to about 2008, 2009. Man, just clutching at straws, trying to find something.
It was.
Yeah.
Garbage. But in many ways, an absolute goldmine, as we have found out.
Yes.
So the final top 5 then is Heidenreich kidnapping Michael Cole, then simulating a sexual assault. Akeem the African Dream, the whole Katie Vick storyline. Vince interviewing Brian Pillman's wife, and Donald Trump versus Rosie O'Donnell.
I feel like we've got all the food groups covered there.
It's a really awful list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to have a Donald Trump in there.
Usually after these podcasts, I'm really like hyped. Like, oh, I really fancy also watching some wrestling. No, not so much.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, same.
Okay. That's it then. We're going to do hardest question of the week after this.
Question week.
Right, I decided to go for something a bit more light-hearted and positive for the question, given what we've been discussing. So this week I asked everybody on Twitter, as a female tag division within WWE looks more and more likely, who would be your choice to stick the belts on first? Tom Mimner says Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, good way of pushing 2 underrated talents who need to get more experience without either having to go it alone. They have a history as a team too, plus it beats just sticking the belts on Bayley and Sasha, or worse, Lita and Trish. Way more upside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like those two as a unit, as a tag team.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dana Brooke and Dana Brooke.
Okay, no, you can't make a suggestion. Conversely, Broken But Glorious said, I can see them putting the belts on Bayley and Banks, but would like to see them do something outside the box like Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, who have been teaming on NXT house shows. However, my money is on Asuka and Naomi, who have great chemistry. Do they?
Yeah, they've been pretty good, haven't they?
Yeah.
Put some nice stuff together.
Asuka's... The Iconics are getting heavily
My suggestion was going to be the Iconics.
There's more suggestions. Yeah, let's hear from the listeners
first.
first.
Okay, sorry.
Heel Nick Payne suggests Tamina and Nia. Then the next tag team who beats them is instantly over. Loserweight says Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke should win them on the night that they and Baszler get called up. That would be pretty cool.
That's...
Will Superkick says I can defo see them going somewhere with the Boss and Hug connection, but the problem would be a division full of put together teams. That person suggesting that Kairi and Io as a team would be cool, but would they just do it because they're both Japanese?
I mean, WWE would.
Yeah, but they've got a lot of history, haven't they, those guys? In terms of,
they've got a huge history in Stardom.
Yeah, and in fact, Reese 711 got involved immediately after that and said Io and Kairi have more chemistry than Sasha and Bayley and Naomi and Asuka, and he actually attached a load of pictures of them teaming up in Stardom, as you said. And then finally, Carl Luckhurst says the Iconics.
Yes,
Peyton Royce
there
and
we
Billy
go.
Kay.
Come on.
Perfect partnership, and can definitely see them cheating for the win.
Yeah,
I would love to see the Iconics with those titles.
Yeah, I think
they're really entertaining, aren't they?
They're so good on the mic. They're pretty good in the ring, and I think it's good to have heel title holders because you can make baby faces by chasing them.
Yes, but do you know what I like about the Iconics as well? Is that they've come up as a tag team.
Yeah,
kind of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville are great, but they've kind of a little bit been put together.
Well, they were with Paige, weren't they?
Exactly, and the same with the Riot Squad as well, where they've all come. They were all individual wrestlers. The Iconics are an iconic.
I think the Riot
women's tag team.
The Riot Squad have gelled really well, though, haven't they?
They have, but I mean, like the Iconics have like gone through developmental as a women's tag team.
Yeah.
In an organisation that doesn't have a women's tag team division, I mean, that's kind of impressive for me.
Good. Right, that's it then for the hardest question of the week. Next podcast is next week. We're going to be doing our review of Survivor Series. Which should be interesting.
Cards are great.
Yeah. It's always a bit of a weird one though, right? But
yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Raw versus SmackDown. I mean, the card looks great, but what can they do with those big matches? It's difficult. I think one thing we all agree on is that we want Becky to go over Ronda.
Yep.
Yes.
Not me.
What? Oh, because you absolutely adore Ronda.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And then the week after the Survivor Series, you may have realised that it is going to be our 50th episode. We've got a couple of exciting things planned for that. One of them is that we're going to do a massive giveaway. We haven't done one for a while, but back on some of our earlier podcasts, we used to give away some of Brett's original artwork and some stickers and some things like that. And we're going to collect a bumper pack of prizes for you guys to possibly win. So look out for that.
A week with John.
Yeah.
A what with John?
A week with John.
A week?
Yeah, just spend a whole week with me. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get hair tips, how to run, stuff like that.
How to run.
Maybe not how to run.
The subject matter for our 50th episode is going to be a good one because we have decided to pick our hardest part of the ring 50, which is basically our top 50 favourite wrestlers in the world right now. So each of us has put together a list of 50, and we're currently in the background doing loads of admin, which we're absolutely loving, as you well know.
We love a spreadsheet.
Yeah, oh my God, the spreadsheet looks incredible.
Spreadsheets.
And we're trying to work out the best way of collating our 4 lists to create the master hardest part of the ring top 50. We will run through those.
Background lobbying as well.
Yeah, a bit of lobbying, definitely. We're going to run through those on the pod. Don't worry, we're not going to do one by one. It's not going to be a 2 or 3 hour pod, but we definitely will be picking out specific people to discuss and highlight. And we want you guys to get involved. And I think a fun way of doing that is if you want to, maybe send us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram your current top 10. And it can be male, female, tag teams. The only rule is that it has to be an active wrestler right now, and it's your favourite. It's not the best, it's not the most talented or the most technical, it's your favourite. And we will then put together like a little side thing for our listeners' top 10. We would say that you could influence our main 50, but it's going to get too confusing, and Sam, I think his brain might explode if we do that.
It's true. It's very true. One thing, no Rosie O'Donnell or Donald Trump impersonators.
Okay.
Cool.
Agreed. Yeah, so send us
no actual Donald Trumps.
What's that?
No actual Donald Trumps either, just in case.
Okay, just in case, because his team are listening to this now that his name's been mentioned a few times. So that's what we're going to do. Send us your top 10s and we will reveal our top 50 favourite wrestlers right now. Brett, how do people get in touch?
They can email us to hardestpartofthering@gmail.com, or they can find us on social media, being Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. We are at hardestpartpod, and they can check out our shop on hardestpartofthering.bigcartel.com.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everybody who has listened this far, and please subscribe and rate and review. And that's it for now. Thank you very much, and goodbye from me. Goodbye, Sam.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, John.
Goodbye.
And fuck you, Brett.
Ta-ra.
It's bad taste. I wanted to end on something bad taste.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You created awkwardness on the pod now.
Hulk Hogan and Donald Trump in a tag team.
Mission successful.
Cool.
Best joke ever on the pod. That was the hardest part of the ring.
That is the hardest